Welcome, everyone. We are suffering Smallville. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Connor.
I am miserable.
But you're always miserable, to be fair.
Yeah, but I'm more miserable after watching Smallville.
So, season 2, episode 15. It's called Prodigal, and it's an episode about Lucas Luthor, the long-lost hidden brother of Lex. And Lex trying to use him to stage a coup for the company to take it away from his father, because there's a rule that any descendant of Lionel will automatically get 10% of the shares. So if they can carve out 10% of the shares for Lucas and then buy it off Lucas, he'll then have enough of a majority to...
It's a good job Lyle didn't have a lot of kids. Because I assume he only had like 50%. Like, I assume he was like just about a majority shareholder. If his 10% now could take it off him, he must have been like a 51% sort of guy in the company.
Yeah.
If he had 5 kids, he's got nothing left.
Yeah, but I presume that he had 51%, like I'm sure whatever Lex had, Lionel made sure he had 51%. So
after that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But what if he had 6 kids?
I'm sure he would have probably not made it 10%. He'd have said, no, 3%. They get 3%.
Well, all I'm saying, it's a good job he didn't go around having a lot of kids after he wrote this up.
He probably did. He's just done a good job at
maybe, yeah.
distancing himself from
he loved his wife very much, obviously.
Yeah, that's why he's got such a hard-on for Martha right now.
Yeah.
So this episode commits the cardinal sin of a Smallville episode, which is that it fails to be very funny. It's mostly just kind of dull. I mean, we made a few laughs for ourselves here or there.
There was nothing that made me drink.
Yeah, there was. They even do the stupid "that's wink wink" and do a little reference to the fact that he's going to be Superman. The closest it maybe got was right at the end when Lex said, "Oh, my family might try and rule the earth, but your family will inherit it." And I thought, maybe that's a kind of like a Superman reference, maybe slightly.
No, I don't think it's meant to. It's just biblical, right? Isn't it?
I suppose.
Will inherit the earth.
But they go to the credits on it, so it felt like it was meant to be like a moment. This is profound.
Yeah, it was supposed to be poignant, but it was actually meaningless.
Yeah, a lot of this episode is our mediocre guest star who plays Lucas Luthor interacting with Lex or Lionel. So there's actually a lot less of the other characters in this. So there's a lot less chance to laugh at some of the bullshit that they've got going on. Normally
it's fine, because mostly they're terrible actors anyway. But this guy wasn't exactly great either.
No. Well, at least their stuff tends to be funny. And yeah, probably most of the laughs we got out of this was the idea that Clark goes to the Talon and asked for a job. And we immediately started joking about why she shouldn't give him this job. And then when he does get the job, after Chloe convinces her that she should give him the job, and that's not...
for some reason.
And let's not gloss over, by the way, again, Lana, she owns a place of work. She's hiring people while still being a high school student. Like, I just, I don't want to ignore that still, because it's still stupid. But...
it is, yeah.
Yeah, we got some laughs out of him being late for his very first shift, and then in his second shift,
running out on his second shift.
running out, and then of course she's like, "Yep, you know I have to fire you, right?" And he's like, "Yep." I guess that's that over. Like,
that was a whole 1 episode subplot there. There you go.
That was the thing. As soon as this plot started, it said she's going to have to fire him by the end of the episode, and sure enough,
the only debate was if he quit because he knew he couldn't do it, or if she fired him. That was literally the only 2 outcomes.
Yeah. Arguably, they kind of met in the middle, because she didn't even really say it. He just accepted, "You're about to fire me." Yes, I understand.
You can't fire me. I quit.
So, in a weird way, they kind of met in the middle between those two, but the result's the same. It tries to do a poignant moment at the end of this plot where he says, "Oh, I hope this didn't change anything between us, Lana." And she's like, "I don't think anything will ever change between us, Clark."
How could anything change? You worked for her for literally 2 days.
And
literally 2 days, and you didn't work 2 full shifts.
And she knew what you were like before this started. She knew.
That's exactly why she didn't want to hire you.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, you came out on this in a positive light. Not in the job sense, but in a relationship sense, because she says at the end, when he comes back to try and explain why he ran away, she's like, Clark, you've got this thing where it's really hard to be mad at you when you let me down. And it's almost like her admitting, like, I sense that it's for a good reason. Like, you never tell me, you never actually trust me with the information, but somehow it feels like you're doing it for a good reason. And technically we know he is, but...
Whoa. The half an hour late wasn't.
No, but the running away in the second shift was.
The second shift was, but the first shift, he was just late. Late on his first day.
For no reason, yes.
Look, all I'm saying is, I've known people to be fired for that. Admittedly, they were late for the first 3 days, but at that point, you're like, just piss off. But it's the same principle.
Well, yeah, I mean, typically any sort of normal job, you're kind of on probation, so you don't have to do something too severe to get told to just leave. So, you know what? Clearly, you're not reliable, so go away.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. So. Where I am, it's 3 months probation where you can just go, oh, just piss off.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're late 3 days in a row on your first 3 days, I'd be the same. But like, if you're half an hour late on your first day and you don't phone ahead to say, hey, by the way, I'm going to be late. That's bad. It's extra bad if you can be there in about 30 seconds with your super speed. How are you half an hour late for something you are 30 seconds away from?
I mean, Lad doesn't know he has super speed.
That's not the point. He knows he has super speed.
So
he knows he can get there, run home on his break, drive his car or his truck back in, and still, what the rest of you said, drive home, and she'd be none the wiser.
That's most of pardon me. See, I'm yawning. I'm so.
It was a very dull episode.
By this episode that I can't even be awake. No, that was most of the Clark stuff. Even the only time like Clark or Lana were even more featured in this was really when the scene where Lucas comes to the talent to say, "Hey, I own this place now because I have everything Lex had," and throws his weight around a bit. And of course, Clark showing up to save things later, but that they don't really have much else.
I would say the only other major Clark scene is early on where Lex brings Lucas round to meet him. And they play, they play some basketball, and he's the jealous because the real brother is replacing the surrogate brother that Clark is.
And it was a little funny seeing that, like, just instantly be the look in his face. He's like, "Wait, you've got a real brother? Oh, but
you're replacing me already?"
And then it all ends, of course, because Lucas doesn't like that Clark is winning at basketball, which Clark is definitely using a little bit of his powers to do.
And Pete's there being like, maybe you want to cool it a little bit.
And so Lucas tries to, like, shoulder him, and because he's Clark, like, it hurts him instead of shoving Clark. It just hurts his shoulder. So it's really awkward, and everyone sort of stops. But it's awkward because it's clear Lucas tried to be rough. But it's also awkward because Clark has to be like, "Oh, that's weird how I didn't react to that."
Yeah, what happened there, guys?
So, other than that, it's a lot of the Luthor family stuff.
There's a bit where, like, Clark uses his powers to save Lucas from a Chinese dude in a bike with some, he's swatting the bullets out of the air.
Well, it's a Chinese assassin because you get some Chinese flute in the soundtrack right as the biker appears.
You do. And, like, in the episode's very mild defense itself, he had a problem with the Chinese guys right at the start.
In fact, actually,
opening 5 minutes.
Probably the most interesting thing we've got to talk about this episode is that the first few minutes felt like a different show because it was like this seedy gambling joint and like a it
wasn't necessarily a good show, but it wasn't terrible.
No, yeah, I'm not saying it was good, but it felt like more of like a CBS action show or a crime show, and we start off in like a sort of underground gambling den that's underneath a Chinese restaurant, and it's like, like he's playing cards and poker with this guy.
James Bond feel to it, didn't it?
Yeah, like the guy he's playing poker with has got like not quite the Fu Manchu style facial hair, but it's kind of in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And it ends up being this chase because when they realize he's cheating, he goes on the run and they're chasing him down these dark alleyways and there's all these neon lights and stuff.
He definitely gets at least one dude killed that he uses as a human shield while they empty a good amount of bullets into him.
Which makes it feel not quite like Smallville. I mean, people have died in Smallville, sure. Pardon me.
But usually not just gunned down by a Chinese mafia like this.
This felt a little edgier, I guess. And we're in Edge City, so
we are in Edge City, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough, I suppose. And it's really cheesy when Lex like sort of like pulls up in the limo, opens the car, and is like, "Here, come here." And he's like, "Who are you?" "Lucas, I'm your brother." Dun dun dun. And then he gets in the car with him. Of course, we later find out that Lionel's already spoken to Lucas, and he's actually setting up an anti-coup so that they'll screw Lex out of his shares because now Lucas has enough to take everything Lex has, blah, 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 blah. But then Lucas gets greedy and doesn't want to. The most interesting thing about all this is that it's clear as the episode goes on that Lionel's no longer blind and he's now faking being blind. He was definitely blind the last episode he was in, so he had one episode off where he wasn't here, and now he's not blind anymore.
Possibly a week or two between episodes, just in terms of the air dates as well.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, definitely, they're using that week off to, because he wasn't in the last one, which was the Rush episode where everyone was like high on kryptonite or whatever it was.
I don't know what the original air dates were.
Yeah, the one before that was the one where Jonathan Kent was up for his attempted murder. So that was the last time we saw Lionel before this one.
This was Prodigal. So there was like, oh no, there was only 3 weeks between this and that episode.
Yeah.
January 28th to February 11th.
So not much of a time difference. No. So it's very, very recent he's got his eyesight back.
Yeah.
But it's all just Lionel trying to like get Lucas to do what he wants. Lucas kind of being this like almost teenager type character who just wants to buy TVs and gym equipment and stuff. And then Lex trying to talk to Lucas out of not trusting Lionel, having to stay at the Kent farm for a while because he gets kicked out of the mansion.
Jonathan's giving him all the shitty jobs to do, and he does them all. And
honestly,
Jonathan's like, you know what? Fair enough.
Jonathan looking out the window and like smiling a little bit because Lex is actually going down with a wheelbarrow and just looking like, yes, this is my shit. This is my new fetish, is watching Lex Luthor do manual labor. Like Jonathan loves it.
And Clark's like, you're enjoying this, are you? And Jonathan's just like, yeah. Which, respect the man being like, yeah, he will be miserable. And I mean, to be fair, Lex gets on with it. He's not that miserable. He's like, yeah, I'll do whatever. He has literally no money, so he kind of doesn't have a choice.
He spent some time in a ranch, he says. He liked it there, so he's enjoying his hay stacking or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, he's cleaning out the horses, isn't he, or whatever they say, cows. What do they have on this farm? Oh, they never really talk about it.
I think they have cows. But do we ever see them milk a cow? I don't think we do.
They definitely grow corn, but they have animals as well. I think they have cows. Was there not an episode where a bunch of cows died?
Well, that sounds...
And it was all mysterious.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah.
Vaguely familiar. Anyway, this is all riveting stuff.
It's a riveting episode.
Oh, dear. So yeah, by the end of the episode, Lex knows Lionel's faking because Lucas figured it out and threw a pill ball at him. But then it turns out Lucas and Lex are actually working together again to prove that Lionel can't be trusted, because Lionel, when he's given a gun and he's told to shoot Lex, Lucas has got him at gunpoint, he gives Lionel a gun and says, hey, shoot Lex, and then we'll negotiate whatever's left. Lionel won't do it. Clark heat visions from the ventilation ducts. Which at the end of the scene, Lionel notices some like melted metal on the floor, and he looks up and there's like just holes in the grate. So
that's suspicious.
Yeah. There's a lot of more of
what Lionel does before he knows it's blanks. Does shoot Lucas.
He does,
like,
and
twice.
that's like literally the smoking gun for them, is that this proves that he'll turn on you, Lucas. You can't trust him. So
yeah, I feel like in Lionel's defense here, which kind of feels weird to have to say, but Lucas is holding a gun to Lionel's head and is threatening to shoot him. So I feel like, when it's like, he's given a moment, it's less I'm picking a favorite son, and more, you're literally holding a gun to my head if I don't do this. It feels not that bad compared to, what they make it out to be.
It feels like a justifiable self-defense moment.
Yes, compared to just Lionel's not orchestrating this and then shooting him in cold blood, right?
And if anything, Lex should look at this and going, oh, he shot the right one. Maybe I should not trust him necessarily, but at least hey,
yeah.
there's a line.
Obviously, there's an implication that Lionel did send the Chinese assassin after him, or at least tip the Chinese assassin off to where Lucas would be. But obviously, that's never confirmed.
Yeah, it's all just kind of like
a
maybe.
mild, it's just like a mild implication, like maybe, but and yeah, that's a bit more untrustworthy. But at least in this situation, it's like the man had a gun to his head. Yes, it's blanks, but he didn't know that.
Yeah, when Lex comes to talk to him after the fact, and Lionel's trying to say, okay, how do we mend all this? And they never really get to a result, but Lionel says, oh yeah, I've been aware of who Lucas is for a few years. He's a sociopath. Like, he makes it very clear that he was never someone who was going to be kept around as the new son. Although Lionel was quite happy to make Lex think that, though, for a while, for the, as Lex put it, the Cain and Abel story to play out.
The man willingly loved the Xbox Duke controller. He was clearly a psychopath.
That looked really bad, though. It did that thing where he was like pretending to play a game. So yeah, his hands were just going, and I'm like, you're not playing a damn thing. This isn't.
No.
Dear. No. But what a blast of the past, though. It's the original Xbox games being played.
Kind of loved that controller. It was terrible, but I kind of love it.
Yeah. God, are we almost done already? I feel like there's nothing to talk about with this episode. Like,
no, there isn't, because there's no plot. There's just Lucas.
Yeah, so much of it's just like the Luthers bouncing around off each other, and like.
But the big revelation is Lionel's not blind anymore.
Yeah,
but
and
that's not that interesting, really, because we kind of knew.
Lucas isn't dead. He's still around, and Lex says he's under his protection. So I don't know if we see him again. I don't know if he's got a follow up to this, or if he's just going to be forgotten about. But for now, at least.
Yeah, I don't remember him again, but I can't say for sure.
I'll tell you what. I'll click on the actor and find out, shall I?
Oh, you're gonna find Smallville in all his hundreds of credits, because he definitely has that look that he's done a lot of really small roles.
Do you know what? Actually, I didn't even recognize him, but he's been on something recently.
I mean, to be fair, been like 20 years since this.
I know, but he's already an adult though. But this is the new Kirk from Strange New Worlds.
Is he actually?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
I assume he's better now. Okay. Let me rephrase that. He's not terrible in this episode, but he's stock CW guest.
Yeah.
Right?
He's not good in this necessarily. Yeah, he's fine as Kirk. He's not like, he's kind of missing like I'm not saying
he's not Shatner.
I'm not saying I want him to do an impression of Shatner, but it does kind of feel like he's not Kirk because he's not got any of that Shatner-esque
charisma
quality to him, right?
Yeah, that's fair. But again, like I say, I don't think he was very good in this episode, but also we have seen a very talented actor on this show in their younger days. You know, we had Amy Adams that was terrible, right, on this show, right? And she is obviously not a terrible actress.
He's listed for only one episode, so we're never seeing him again.
We're never seeing him again. Got it. Unless
they recast him, of course, which... Yeah.
I think they just never see him again.
Yeah.
I think we never even have him mentioned again.
He also used to go by Paul Wasilewski, so he's
Polish or something then, I guess.
So he's changed it to Wesley. I guess it wasn't as marketable, which is a bit sad. I always hate when I see an actor has to do that. But,
it is sad, yeah. I mean, I'm guessing Polish. It sounds Eastern European.
It looked, if not Polish, then certainly something around Eastern Europe anyway. So, yeah, this is a really annoying episode because it is just a dud in the sense that, like, most of the episodes aren't good, right? The whole point of us calling it Suffering Smallville is that they're not good, but some of them are funny bad, and then we will sit and we will deconstruct it, and there'll be like an A plot and a B plot. And this did technically have a B plot. It had Clark trying to work at the Talon.
It was like 3 scenes.
Yeah.
Application, first shift, second shift,
firing.
All right, 4 scenes. 5 if you count Chloe talking to Lana that, hey, you should hire him.
And 5 is probably a normal amount. It's just that it doesn't amount to much, and we started with that because it was the more interesting thing from typical Smallville talk, because the main Luthor stuff was so dull and so just like seeing these characters bounce off each other just wasn't that entertaining, mainly because we know Lucas isn't going to be a permanent fixture here. He's not that interesting in his one appearance, so never really got much out of that. While there's a couple of okay Lionel or Lex moments, Lionel specifically when he's, like there's a moment towards the end where Lex says, "Okay, so how long have you been seeing again?" And he just he gives this little shrug that did give me a little chuckle because he's like, a few weeks. Like he's very cheeky. He's like, "Oh, I've been a bit cheeky." He's like, "Oh, it's amazing what people try and do when they don't think you can see them." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's a shame that you weren't faking it when Clark was using his powers all willy-nilly in front of you."
I feel like it was such a wasted opportunity for the show to not have the audience know that Lionel was faking it for at least a couple of episodes and have. Obviously, I'm not saying have Clark do anything ridiculous in front of him because you don't want to ruin that. Fine, I get that. But at least like play the idea that he knows what Lex is doing in front of him a little bit more, because we don't even get any of that in this episode.
Or even like question like when that turn was, and maybe the audience could be questioning, did he see Clark do something? But it's pretty clear that he didn't. Like I don't think he did.
Yeah.
I think it never even tries to imply that. So it's a whole thing. Yeah. So that kind of sucks. Yeah, I think we're done. I mean, some of these Smallville reviews have been going like twice this length, but I just don't think there's anything to talk about with this one.
There's not. It's a really dull episode.
I got nothing.
Hopefully, next time will be not better, but funnier.
Oh yeah, I need to tell you what's next time. I've already closed that tab.
God damn it.
What I feel I am. Because I was on the Paul Wesley dude, and then I went, whatever. So anyway. But yeah, next time, we're doing an episode called Fever.
I don't remember from the name, which is usually a terrible sign.
Is it a bad sign?
It usually means it's more dull. Usually, not always.
Okay. Well, oh, God damn it. All right. So I'm not going to read the full description because it's too much of it. But
do you want the wiki description?
I went to wiki. It doesn't have one.
Wow, really?
Yeah, the episodes don't have descriptions unless there's a separate page that has them. But the list of episodes page doesn't have them. Anyway, while hiding the spaceship key in the farm's storm cellar, Martha Kent breathes some unknown meteor rock spores and immediately gets ill. Blah 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 blah. It looks like Clark gets sick.
I've got a good one here.
Oh, go on.
Martha slips into a coma after inhaling kryptonite-irradiated spores. Clark loses his powers when he breathes in the same spores, but he is Martha's only hope for survival. And Lex continues his search for the truth about Clark. Because of course he does.
You can say that about almost every episode.
Yeah. But basically, Clark has no powers, presumably gets sick, but is also, Martha is also pretty sick.
It's also the first time he's ever been sick, probably, I'd assume.
Yeah, I feel like we already had an episode where he was a bit sick, but...
I mean, I think feeling pain from kryptonite and being sick in bed with a fever is a little bit, different.
Yeah.
So. Oh well.
It looks like Dr. Bryce is back.
I can barely contain my excitement.
Yeah.
That's the show, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Support us on Patreon if you like everything. Help keep the lights on. Like, subscribe, all the usual things. I got nothing left for you. This has been Suffering Smallville. And suffering is the key word in that title this week.
Yeah. Didn't you have a proper outro for this?
Oh yeah, somebody save me.